Hello MMA community, YouTubers, and all the followers on my channel. I want to thank you guys for joining me today, and I'm excited to talk to you guys about UFC 256 that's approaching up in the next few days, coming up in the next few days. We're going to have an awesome fight card. I'm super excited as not just a fan and a fan of the sport and just a fan of watching fights and a lot of the fighters, but as a bettor more than anything else. This is a gambler's dream come true card. I honestly could not imagine a more easier, a more safer, a more card that is capable of being like, when I'm predicting fights, okay, when I'm breaking it down in my head and trying to determine who's going to be the winner, I'm pretty much watching the fight in my head already. I'm looking at the fight happen as I'm thinking about it. I'm playing in my head. Look, okay, I've seen this guy's fights 20,000 times. I've seen this guy's fights 20,000 times. I know how he's going to approach it. I know how he feints. I know how he leg kicks. I know how he jabs. I know how much output he puts. I know how his takedown defense is. I know what his game plan is. And then I use all this information that I know about this guy, and then I do the same thing with the other guy that he's fighting. And then I try to put it together and I say, okay, well, when he does this, he's going to do this. Obviously, that's what he always does when somebody has done that in the past. And then that guy will do it. I play the fight. It's like I've already seen it. That's why it's not a coincidence that not only am I picking all the right picks, like last week and several weeks before that, I've had weeks where not only did I have the perfect picks, I told you all exactly how they would win and most of the time when they would win. Early on, first round, last round, later in the fights, early inside the distance, in the decision cards. The way they're going to win is by output, by an accumulation of strikes, not one punch. Like, I see this stuff and I tell you guys, and it comes to fruition because I played it in I've already witnessed this fight. And unless one guy came in a completely different fighter than we've ever seen him before, that is more likely than not, more often than not, and supposed to happen. And so it does usually happen, and this is the perfect card for that. I can already simulate exactly what's going to happen and who's going to win, and there's no reason why it wouldn't be that way unless somebody has just from their last fight until this fight became a completely different fighter, which happens, but usually not for any reason. It's uncommon, and I usually follow them throughout their training to see and find out if there's reasons why they would have. For example, Brian Ortega, he got picked apart on the feet. He got annihilated. His face was a mess. He looked like he got run over by a train. So he took years off. Not as different. When you haven't seen a fighter in years, that's not the kind of fight I'm talking about in this card. This card's the gambler's dream card because these are all guys who we've seen time after time after time, who have been active, who they're not new. So this is a perfect card. This is not guys who are going to be a mystery to us. And I'm just so excited. Like I feel like I've already watched this event happen, and I can just quickly tell you guys what's going to happen in all of them, okay? But let's start off with just a few. What I'm going to start to do is I like to do it this way. I think this week would be a perfect week for this, and it's going to help a lot of you guys win money as well. I'm going to break into segments, okay? This segment is going to be my parlay picks, and I'm going to break down to you guys why they're my parlay picks. The next segment, or maybe even the same segment, but the next topic will be my underdogs. These are the guys that I assume should pull off the upsets, or they should have been the favorites, and this is why. And then the other segment will be the single bets, the guys who I think will win, but because it's going to be a close matchup, like for example, the Jack Hermanson and Vettori fight, I already knew. Besides that, I only circled one other fight. I put it in my Patreon. I do color coordinating where I circle white winners. The ones who I circled to win in white are the parlay picks. The ones who I circled in blue are the single bet picks. So you can bet on them but not put them in parlays because they're going to be battling through adversity. And when you're having a close fight, anytime it's a real close fight, like I used to tell you with underdogs and pick'ems, not the best for parlays. That's more designed for single bets. So anyways, I'll go through a segment and a portion of the segment that's just for those fights, and I'll go in that type of an order. So if you're somebody who's interested in parlays only and you don't really care so much about single bets, you know which segment to listen to, okay? That's even better than timestamps for all those who care about timestamps. All right, well, I guess just by no specific order, we can start with some of the parlay picks. All right, and one of my parlay picks, actually, no, it's more fun. Let's start with some single bet, guys. People who could just put some single, they don't want to ruin their night because of one weird thing that happened and messed up their entire night. You don't want to be that make it or break it type of a better, and you want to bet safely. There's a system that I have. I've mastered and perfected it. I'm teaching it to my patrons. I posted about it in my Patreon that tells you how to turn $50 into $400 without having to do parlays. But it's a self-made parlay system in a sense, because it's basically you're manually doing a parlay by placing money, reinvesting the winnings from the money, but there's also more of a sophisticated system behind it that allows and that makes it possible so that if any of the fights go wrong, unlike a parlay where then your night is over, all your money is gone, you have an insurance on the side to get you back in the game. It's like having an extra life in the game. When you get killed or you lose your life and in your turn, you get a free life. That's what it is. I made a system so that it's perfect, so that you get the same benefits, you get the same amount that you would win in a parlay without having to worry about if one guy messed it up for you guys. So we'll get to that if you're in the Patreon. If anybody who remembered, I put in a post about betting advice for tonight. That's the one that it was a real long, like a few paragraphs explaining the system and how I perfected into making sure that if you just did single bets and not parlays, you can still make 5 times your money back. And it always works, unless I go from the guy who's being 90% right for most of the part, doesn't even sometimes get one wrong, into being the guy who gets more than half of the fights wrong. If I just somehow become that guy instead, that's the only way you won't make 3 or 4 times your money back using this system. It's a guaranteed bulletproof system. These are part of the betting, the perks of being in the Patreon, by the way. So, and also I wanted to congratulate myself. I became a member of MMA Betting Tips because somebody had mentioned, I didn't even know about this until recently. Somebody had made a comment asking me if I get tracked. I didn't even know what that, I was like, maybe my, like, what did they think? I'm on parole or on probation. They're supposed to be tracking me or something. Then he told me there was a website where handicappers or betting people go on and they place all their bets in advance. And then they track and monitor who's got the better percentages and who won the more money, who's in the profits, who's lost money based off their bets that they predicted to play for. And people can even buy the picks, I guess, off that site. It's a third-party service that pretty much is a competition to see which website, which YouTube channel or company or predictors or handicappers from all over the world. There's over 3,000, there's almost 2,900 members. And guess what your boy did on his first week? I got the perfect week, no wrong bets. I didn't even put all my bets in there, but almost all my bets in there because a lot of them got canceled and whatnot. So if it wasn't for that, and if I just included every one of my bets, because I did have a perfect week except for one fight, and that was the fight that I circled in blue, told everybody that is not a parlay fight. It's not the kind of fight that is the most confident one because it's going to be back and forth, and it happened to be the fight of the night, got performance of the night, got fight of the night. It was the closest, best fight on the card. And so anybody who sided with either side could not be criticized for it because it was a very good fight. But anyways, and I didn't include that into my parlay, so I became the guy with the best percentage. There are guys like MMA Prediction Guru's website, DFS by the Numbers, Odds Headquarters. All those guys are being tracked. Out of that entire group, there's guys who are in the, I don't want to put anybody out there, but out of those big, I just named those 4 because they're the biggest channels with like 20 best fight picks, those 2 kids that predict, they got negative percentages. That means they've lost more than they won. The best out of all those guys was not even at 30% winning. They were at 20-something% of winning ratio, so they only win 20% of their whatevers. Guess what your boy did on his first week? record-breaking number. There's not even anybody out of those 2,800. I didn't find one guy with my percentage. I'm at 150% betting percentage. So I win 150% of my money back. So if I bet 100, I would have won $300-400. I won 3 or 4 units on top of it. I don't know how to explain this. I don't know how they go, but I got the best, highest percentage, perfection. So I went from starting to being the best percentage, the #1 guy on that tracking site. So I'm very proud about that. And that just goes to speak about what I told you. I don't know if you remember in my video, I said I'm going to go from being 70-80% right to now being 90% to 100% right, because these cards are with fighters that we know. They're not new guys from Dana White or from other organizations, unproven, untested. This is the kind of fight that separates the boys from the men, and everybody can pick big favorites, or take the guesses based off the lines. But I dissect these fights. I go into the science. I break it down like a Teddy Atlas for boxing would have broken it down. And let's start off with this fight, okay? The fight with, here's some value here. If you ask me, this is what value is, okay? Rafael Fiziev. He opened up as a plus something. So he was supposed to be a underdog, okay? The odd makers made him an underdog. Some money is coming back now, so we got to take advantage of line mover. This is a fight. I'm also going to make a part of the segment which fights that you should wait to bet on, because I'm noticing the line is going in the opposite way, and that means it's going to be good for us that they're putting money on the guy that we expect to lose. So I'll tell you, hey, on this fight, don't bet on it or don't put it in parlays until right before the fight start, like an hour before. And then there's going to be other fights. Well, I'll notice that the line's moving the other way, where I'm going to tell you don't wait, and you guys got to hammer it right away before the line movement gets out of control. So that's going to be a new addition to my channel and my Patreon. Mostly my Patrons, because again, I'm not doing this full time. I can't afford to just keep giving free advice, free content. It makes you guys a ton of money. I'm missing out on time that I could have. I have a good job, by the way. I don't know if I told you guys this, but I make like $100 an hour, sometimes more, at my other job. So I've actually been losing money. If you kind of ask me, like, I go from making on my worst month at my other job $8,000-9,000 a month. So for me to stop doing a job like that and transition to being able to do more videos, longer segments, and coming to do, I have to find more subscribers, more, like, I don't know, if maybe an ad, a sponsor. And as of right now, we're too new to, we don't have enough. So I got to depend on the Patreon. If you guys don't join the Patreon, I can't give you this stuff that's going to help you make money. The tips, like the live betting notifications, all that stuff that comes in hand. Like, you help me help you. If you're in there, you're helping me, I'm going to help you. I'm going to make sure that I'm helping you more than you're helping me, to be personally. Like, obviously, as an entire group, you guys are helping me a lot more than I can probably help one person, maybe. Even that I don't think is possible, because I make one person several thousands of dollars if they're betting enough money. So you can see that in my comments and my posts. I've shown you guys. I had a perfect week last week. And I mean, on Saturday, besides one card, which was, like, again, I told you it was not a card, it was not a fight that I parlayed. So my parlays, I did make like 5 like crazy Hail Mary parlays with all the entire card in it, for the most part. So, like, besides those 5 or 6 parlays that I made like that with the casino's money, I cashed in 44 out of 48 parlays. And I'm just like 40 out of 40 something parlays. Only 5 of my parlays out of almost 50 did not cash in. Mind you, the least amount that the parlays were paying was like 3 to 1. I didn't have anything less than 3 or 4 to 1 odds on my parlays, and 40 something out of 40 something cashed in for us. That means you made a minimum of 35 times your money back. If you bet $100, you made $3,500 if you just followed my bet slips to the way I did them, the way I posted them, the combinations that I put only, and listened to my advice on how to bet it. You would have made 35 times your money back, guys. So let's get started, man. The longer you wait, the worse it is, and I want to help you help me. So, all right, so the first fight we're going to get on is the guy who's got a lot of value, and you got to hammer it before it gets out of control, because people are starting to realize why he should be the favorite. But right now it's still at almost pick'em, so he's only a -140. Rafael Fiziev. This guy is he's got the perfect opponent in front of him to win a fight and probably win it inside the distance, I would imagine. But even if not, he's going to win it by this unanimous decision. And let me tell you why. His opponent, Renato Moicano, I mean, like, the guy's a good, it pains me as a fighter, former fighter and a trainer. It pains me to see fighters like this who have so much potential, who could have been something great. But the guy, he's like 30-something years old right now. Let me check. He's like 30. Let me see how old he is. He's in his 30s, man. And as of right now, he still has not come into his own. He has not discovered himself. Do you know why he was finished by an even older fighter in Jose Aldo, who's kind of at the end of his career? We obviously see just a shell of him at this point. He's not the old Jose Aldo, but he finished Renato Moicano as like if he was the old Jose Aldo. And let me tell you why he did that. Renato gave him that. He handed it to him. You know what he does? You know what I noticed about this guy? As I said, I dissect these fights. I find the holes in their games, and I find their opponent's strengths, and I try to put it together and say what would happen in the fight. And that's how I'm so accurate in my predictions. This guy fights like it makes no sense how he fights. His style makes absolutely no sense. And let me explain to you why. And this is why he's going to lose this fight. This is why he lost the Jose Aldo fight. This is why he's not a future contender and never will be a champion, okay? This is a flaw in his game that is unforgivable, unfixable until, like, I don't imagine at this point of his career, this old, he's going to fix it all of a sudden. I just don't understand it. I don't know if his trainers don't care enough about him. They don't see the potential in him maybe, and they rather focus their time on other fighters. I've seen that happen a lot in gyms. One reason or another, they've given up on him, or they just maybe don't care enough, or they didn't notice it. Who knows? Maybe I'm a better trainer than I thought I was, and I'm at a level where I can see things that they don't even see, you know? But let me tell you what I noticed about this guy, and it sucks. He hasn't come into his own because the guy fights. If you watch him fight, if you see his style, it's similar to like the Andrei Arlovsky fight with Tanner Boser, where he was not putting nearly as much output. The numbers showed Boser landed 3 times more strikes in every category: leg kicks, total strikes, significant strikes. In every category, Boser landed 3 times more than Arlovsky. But do you know why? Arlovsky's a power puncher. At this stage of his career, he's not going to, at as old as he is with the younger guys, he can't keep up in the pace and the cardio against these guys. So what he's doing is selecting his shots very carefully. So his landing, he's not missing. His accuracy is getting to be way better, way higher. But the problem with that type of a fight is if you don't have one-punch knockout power, if you don't have the ability to hurt your opponent so badly, at least, if you can't knock him out, you got to be able to at least be able to hurt him so bad that he becomes ineffective in his style of matching, or his matchup style that he has that makes him win fights has to now be nullified because you hurt him. Like, for example, attacking his lead leg, making him switch, and he's not a guy who can switch stances. He's an orthodox or whatever, and you attacked his lead leg that you forced him to go into a different stance he's not very effective in. Now you've made the advantage in yours, and now you can start opening up. That's one different thing. He doesn't do that. He doesn't, you know what he does? He's a counter striker. He selects his shots. He doesn't have the forward pressure, the forward pace. He doesn't strike first. He wants to wait for you to make a mistake, counter your punches, and select his shots very carefully. But the problem with that is, how are you supposed to win a decision? Because they do who's the control time, who's pushing the forward pressure, aggression, total strikes, like all that stuff. They count that in the decision. So if you're gonna choose to lose in those, unless it's a robbery, unless Chris Lee is on the panel, like in that Boser fight actually, unless you're gonna be that guy, depending on the judges' scorecards or cheat, you have to be the guy who can knock somebody out or hurt them real bad. Renato's not that guy. Do you know how many wins he's got by knockout in his entire career? 0. In his entire career, he has 0 knockouts. TKOs, KOs, 0. Not even 1. But his style, the way he fights, you would think he's a KO artist. Because that's the only way you'll win. And you know what the other problem about it is? You can't win at the decision cards. You can't win by knockout. You don't have the power for it. you're allowing your opponent now to select his shots. You're saying, oh, you don't have some Israel Adesanya, Muhammad Ali reflexes. You're not some amazing fluid moving guy who can get out the way. He gets hit a lot. He gets hit more than he hits people almost. So if it doesn't make sense, his style. He needs to re-switch. He needs to become a completely different fighter. Or just go to the gym and start focusing on weight training and become a much more powerful guy if he wants to keep that style. So, or just a better game plan. I mean, just, it doesn't make sense. He's now I see why the money's coming in on his opponent. His opponent is a vicious animal, man. This guy's a guy who can switch stances very well. So he can go from any stance if he has to. If he notices that, you know, you're chewing up his legs, he can switch it. If he notices that you're moving in a specific direction outside of his hook or his jab, he can switch it and go to the other side. Dangerous. That's a very dangerous skill set to have when you're fighting against somebody who can switch, and they're not orthodox or southpaw. They can go to either one. That's what he does. Another thing that he does, he's got amazing takedown defense. He's got 100% takedown accuracy for takedown defense. He's super powerful. This guy, he chews up the lead leg very well. He goes low, then high, then in the middle. He mixes it up. Excellent fighter, good cardio. He's a dog. He's not afraid of taking punches, to give punches, but because he knows that if you open up to punch him, you're going to have to leave yourself open for a punch. But his punches, unless you're like, I can't even think of anybody with that type of a power in that division. Like, most of the fighters in his weight class are not as powerful as they are fast or accurate. He's got accuracy. He's pretty fast. He's not slow, but his power is our biggest advantage here in this fight. Is the reason why I really want to go with him. Is his power is going to make this opponent do exactly what he did against Jose Aldo. When as soon as he feels the power in this guy's hands, and he's not going to have an answer to it, he's going to ball up like a Jordan Wright, like a Malcolm Gordon, probably even play dead, and he's not going to want to be there that night, man. He's going to want to be out of that fight as soon as possible. And the guy's a dog, man. He's got the spirit and like the kind of fighting heart, like Louis Smolka, who I told you guys it was a slow starter, and as soon as you kind of give him some adversity and wake him up, he's going to let the dog out. That's going to wake the dog up, and he's going to come and battle back. And sometimes it takes, some people are like that. Like even Jack Hermanson showed that after getting beat up in the first round, it woke him up. He started to get angry, which kind of was, I'll talk about that later. He beat himself. I mean, don't get me wrong, Vettori showed some amazing improvements. He showed amazing cardio. He dug deep inside. He did some championship type of. He showed champion quality, attributes that only champions show. Like his cardio was never, his grappling was never this good. He was always good, but this was great. There's a difference between good and great. He came as a great grappler, great cardio, great output, everything he did was he beat Hermanson by just being better. He didn't he made no mistakes. Hermanson's the kind of guy, as I was telling you guys, you don't have to really make a mistake, but he'll capitalize on mistakes like it's on automatic. As soon as you make a mistake, I can't even think of one mistake that Vettori made in the entire fight. The guy was perfect. I don't know if it's a statement because of his trainer. His trainer is an awesome trainer, Rafael Cadero. That guy's got some amazing fighters in his camp. You could tell from this talking and between the rounds, the stuff that he was telling, he was keeping it real with his fight. He told him when he was losing the rounds, what he needed to do. He gave him the pep motivation talk. Awesome trainer, man. And with a guy like Vettori, and if you put a trainer like that on his corner, he's young, he listens very well. It's a beautiful partnership. It's a beautiful team. And I was very impressed by them together, what they were able to do, because Hermanson really didn't do any mistakes. The guy studied, he must have studied him. He knew what it was going to take, and he brought it out. He took it, he dug deep down and brought something out of himself that nobody ever seen him do. would have imagined. I mean, we've seen Vettori do it a million times in 5-round fights. Even with Jacare Souza's most recent fight, he did a 5-round. In his old organizations, he did a bunch of 5-round championship fights. But Vettori, we never really seen him in 5-round fights besides like once, I think. But and it was just, he didn't look nearly as good as he did this time. So it was awesome to see somebody who just based off desire want what they could do. All right, and so let's go back to our pick for a great single bet, because it will be a semi-close fight, but I actually I would feel comfortable putting I would feel comfortable putting, how do you say this guy's name? It's real difficult. I hope somebody can help me pronounce this. Rafael Fiziev. He, in my opinion, is a good parlay piece, especially at this value. When you put him in like even a small parlay, a 2 or 3 leg parlay, you'll get plus money, underdog money for this guy, like he actually opened up. So Rafael Fiziev will not have any areas where he's going to be in trouble. This is his fight all day long. He'll win this fight 9 out of 10 times, maybe 10 out of 10 times. This is one of my most confident picks. I would definitely parlay him, even not at all my patrons will see how I'm going to do this, but we're going to put him in some parlays, and we're going to protect ourselves just in case anything goes wrong in that fight. It won't be a problem, don't worry. All right, next fight, Jacare Souza, Kevin Holland. All right, my thing here is I like Kevin Holland. I know he'll win this fight, and most 9 out of 10 times he'll win this fight. My concern is he's recovering from COVID, but he seemed to be, from the interviews that I was watching and everything else, non-symptomatic. So it doesn't seem like it's affected. He talked fine. He looked fine. I don't expect it to, and a lot of people do that. So I don't expect it to be a problem for him. The other thing is I was worried about is just in the later rounds, his IQ gets like, it goes from being okay to kind of really bad. He doesn't like, he puts himself in dangerous positions, dangerous predicaments. And he doesn't, and there's a reason why like he doesn't pace himself well, is because his takedown defense is not the greatest. So therefore, in order to have better takedown defense, to make up for not having the best takedown defense, he's got to go crazy in output. He's got to nonstop move his hands, move his feet, and give a million amount of strikes to keep his opponent at bay and at a distance, to avoid him from trying to, or punish him every time he tries to go in for the takedowns. If he's that type of a fighter who needs to take fights to the ground, then, or just wants to get points for takedowns, like a Brandon Allen who defeated him, he probably couldn't do it as well and easy in the beginning of the rounds because he's got enough gas in his tank. He's still fresh. But later, when he gets tired from having to put 1,000,000 strikes in the first round, it's natural everybody would fade after a while. And when that happens, I'm afraid that Souza if he doesn't put away Jacare Souza early on, and we know he does have good cardio, just like his Hermansson fight. He went all 5 rounds. He lost by decision. Even Hermansson couldn't put him away, even though he tried as hard as he could. Even in the grappling, he was almost trying to put him in positions to submit him. Jacare Souza, who would have imagined somebody would try to submit him, right? But so the good thing is his age, his cardio doesn't look as good, even though he's able to stick around. He's kind of not as useful as he was in the beginning of the first and second rounds. So even though he'll still be there just from his strength, these Brazilians are real tough, man. I can't stress that enough. His toughness is what kind of keeps him around, but his skill set, it kind of dissolves at the later rounds. He's not as dangerous and much of a threat. So for that reason, I'm going to still say I would be comfortable parlaying Kevin Holland. And it's only a 3-round fight, so it's okay. I like Kevin Holland here. His kung fu makes him very, very unique. Not many black belts, especially in kung fu, so it's hard to emulate him in sparring. So Jacare Souza, as seasoned of a veteran as he is, I don't think he'll be fully prepared for the type of a threat that you've seen how he put away He's kind of similar to like a Jury, which I can't ever pronounce his name, or like even a John Jones in a sense where he's predictable. He'll do some spinning stuff, or he'll act like he'll have his hands down, then all of a sudden he'll come down with a crazy punch right down the middle, down the straight pipe. He'll land right on the button. So he's very hard to predict. He's never going to go through the same motions. He's not afraid of getting hit, so you can't really predict him from throwing feints and seeing where he's just a very difficult opponent to fight with on the feet. So he's somebody, unless you can take him down, keep him down, and control him, he's a hard person to beat on the feet. At Souza's age, his speed, and just the style of fight that he usually has is just, it doesn't match well. Even if Souza was in his prime, Jacare was in his prime, this is a bad matchup for him. The length, the power he comes with, the speed, the unorthodox movement and striking, it's just not it's not good. If it wasn't for his takedown, but again, he makes up for his bad takedown defense by the output. Do you guys remember how much output he put in the first couple of rounds against Darren Stewart before? That's why even though it looked like a 10-8 round in the third round, if you guys remember, Kevin Holland, after winning that fight in the back of the locker rooms, he told Dana White, I didn't win this fight. That boy beat me. He said, I want to run it back because Darren Stewart beat me. That's what of an honorable guy he is. He said that the judges messed up and that he should have lost that fight against Darren Stewart. But in my opinion, it wasn't a 10-8 round because he didn't get dominated until halfway through the last round. So that's not a 10-8 round. You have to be dominated the entire round to be a 10-8 round. So he did win the first 2 rounds, but the first round was, you could have argued that it was a 10-8 round for Holland even. It was just so crazy. He put more output in the first round to avoid the danger that he got into in the third round, in the first round from happening. He put so much, like most 3-round fights don't even have as much as output as he put and landed in the first round. He's super accurate. He doesn't just throw for the sake of throwing or tip-tap. He tries to knock your head off every time he throws a strike. So when you have those ridiculous, like I think he had like 100 strikes landed in the first round, and if it wasn't for Darren Stewart being just a beast of a guy, the guy's like built like a tank, most people would have, like, he knew the threat from Darren Stewart. That's why he did that. He did not want to be dominated and taken down or give him a chance to open up and feel comfortable and get in their groove. So he tried to be the first to do it, which is the problem I said with Renato. Renato Marciano, the guy is the opposite. He just waits and lets you open up on him, and then it's almost as if you would think that he's given his opponents the false sense of security and feeling safe, so that he can open up with his own. That's going to be like putting the fight to an end and stopping, but he doesn't. He's got 0 knockouts for a reason. That just the way he fights it, would you make it think it would, unless you can knock somebody out, you'll never win fights that way. So again, it doesn't make sense. I don't understand it, but that's what he does. Kevin Holland does that to his opponents. He doesn't give them a chance to open up. He does the opposite of what Renato does. And that's what, if he could do the same thing he did to Darren Stewart, to Jacare Souza in the first round, Souza will be, if he doesn't get finished in the first round, he will be useless in the second and third. He'll just be hanging on for dear life. That's it. So I don't see a threat. I don't see him able to hold on to stronger, fresh, younger, bigger Kevin Holland. So anyways, next fight. All right. We're not going to be able to finish them all. We've gotten too long in this video, so I'll do another segment tomorrow. Keep an eye out for that segment. But I'll give you a couple more. All right. Tony Ferguson and Charles Oliveira. Now, Tony Ferguson is very the type of a guy, like, you got to think about how these people, in order to learn about them in the ring, you got to kind of know them. If you can know a person's personality, their traits, their character, their ethics, their honor, their morals outside the ring, it kind of translates sometimes inside the ring. So it's like I believe, like, if you tell me one thing about you, I can tell you 5 more things about you based off that one thing alone. For example, if you're a liar, you're probably a cheater. You're probably a manipulator. Like there's always going to be cousins and relatives of a word or a verb or a meaning that you can use it to expect somebody to be something else. Well, that's the same thing. So Ferguson's a very proud guy. He does not accept losing. He hates losing. Did you see how he acted after the Justin Gaethje fight? Justin Gaethje told him it doesn't pay off to be a a-hole, and that's because he tried to give him like props and like hug and do the things that like they do as honor and respect and sportsmanship after the fight is over. Ferguson was so upset about losing that fight, it hurt him so bad, he pushed Gaethje. Like, he was still like in the fight after the fight was over. He still had the fight mentality. It went outside the ring with him. He pushed him away, and he did, for no reason. Justin Gaethje wasn't a prick. He wasn't being a jerk, arrogant inside the ring. It was just a sport, and they try to beat each other and win the fight. That's it. The guy wasn't disrespectful in any way, shape, or form, but Tony Ferguson in the beginning disrespected Gaethje and didn't even want to give him the high five or the slap on the butt, the hug, or whatever you want to do after ends at most fight. Even Conor McGregor, look at this picture. Conor McGregor, and look at them, they were hugging over here, right? He didn't want to do that with him. He pushed him away at first, and Justin Gaethje called him an a-hole for that. He said, you don't get anywhere by being an a-hole. But then later on, I think it looked bad on him, so he realized that he better not continue that type of, but the first natural instinct was to do that. And that tells me a lot about how he is, man. He's probably been training since he got out of the hospital and recovered. The guy's gonna improve himself. We should expect the same way after, if you remember, Justin Gaethje, after his loss, they rebuilt him. They reincarnated him. They, like anything, if you want to rebuild something and fix it, you got to break it down completely and rebuild it. That's the best way to do it. At least if you try to do it any other way, it'll never be as good. You got to tear it down and rebuild it from the root. And that's what they did with Gaethje. Gaethje was rebuilt. He became a completely different fighter. Like I said, how Renato's got to be if he wants to ever be anything better than he is. So they did that with Gaethje. He wasn't the guy who had to be kill or be killed. He wasn't just, and he knew that eventually it would land him to have brain damage or CTE, whatever they call that thing. And not only that, was it dangerous for his health, and but also it was costing him fights. And after that Dustin Poirier loss, he changed even his that guy. What's his name? He's an excellent trainer, man. I'm so bad at names, guys. I would forget my own name. I swear. His trainer's awesome, man. The guy's a great trainer, and he even in the middle of because it's hard to break old habits. So even in the middle of the fight, while he was winning against Tony Ferguson, he said, "Pull back some. You're going too crazy. Just you take down 10% or 90%, or I don't know what he said, but he said, pull it back a little bit. Don't be so aggressive. Just tone it down, pace yourself, be more calculated, and wait for the openings." And when he didn't go for broke and just headhunt and try to kill people, you saw how awesome and crisp and accurate and technical he could be, and that's a more dangerous. Remember, I always told you I'd rather be the guy who lost by just getting punched and knocked out with one hit than the guy who got beat by an accumulation of 500 strikes that ended the route with me being swollen and brain damaged. So that's the more dangerous opponent, not the guy who can just knock you out in one punch, the guy who can just put it on you until the referee has to stop it because he's seen it affect you way too much. Tony Ferguson's brain was shaking inside of his head. The guy was shaking no more. It was a natural reflex that after he got hit, his body just started, his mind took over. His body even started speaking for him to say no mas. He did the no mas, like in the boxing against, what's that guy's name? Again, names, I'm the worst. And I'm one of the biggest fans of this guy, and I can't even remember his name. Anyways, the guy who said no mas against the guy who Usher played, Sugar Ray Leonard. So that's what he did. He did no mas in there. And his body language said it. He didn't say it with his mouth. He didn't tap out. He's too proud. That same thing, that proudness is going to be why I expect to see the best version of Tony Ferguson we're ever going to see. This is going to be a guy, remember, he came off a 12-fight winning streak, And he only lost against a guy who is championship quality. The guy used to be a champion in his old divisions, in his old organizations. Justin Gaethje is one of the best fighters in the world, man. And he's got power. He's got just the perfect combination of what it takes to be a champion. So there's no shame. And he went almost the entire full 5 rounds. So there are not many people who can keep that pace, who can take that punishment and keep dishing punishment out. Oliveira's a good fight. But let me tell you something about Oliveira that I'll be able to translate into the ring, which makes me more confident. I can even parlay this fight, and I'll tell you guys why. The Oliveira guy, he passed on a fight. Do you know he was booked to fight Beneil Dariush, and for no reason, no explanation, canceled that fight? Beneil Dariush is on a 6-fight winning streak, knocking like 5 of those 6 people out in the first round, and that's not even his specialty. The guy can take you down and submit you. He's the best grappler probably in that division. He's trained by Rafael Cordero as well, the same guy that helped Martin Vettori become who he is, and just all around just a true black belt, a true beast with heart. The guy's ethnicity is my own. We're both Assyrians. We come from Iraq or Mesopotamia or Greece. Assyrians don't have their own country any longer, so we're scattered, but we are the same ethnicity and culture. So he comes with that heart like a Georgian does, and a lot of other cultures have that are meant perfect. Brazilians, perfect for fighting. That's what this guy lacks. I mean, anyways, yeah, so he lacks that. He had a fight booked with the Beneil Dariush. He canceled it, and he went for a guy who he expected, just like Khabib said. Khabib said that Tony Ferguson's career is done. He'll never be the same again. Everybody's counting him out. They're thinking that he's going to come back and not be as good anymore. He needed the confidence. He didn't have the confidence enough to go, because he's very selective. He wants to go. He's trying to climb up the rankings the easy way. He's trying to take shortcuts and not the least path to resistance. And if you fought against Beneil Dariush, it's a guaranteed loss. And if he did win, it would have been a much harder win in his mind, because the guy's main strategy is grappling, taking you down, and submitting you. The worst opponent in the world that you could have had for that type of a strategy and game plan is the guy who almost submitted Michael Chiesa. Beneil Dariush is a true black belt. He's got his MMA Kings like gym. The guy he gives black belts out. He's a true sensei in that art. So you cannot take down Beneil Dariush and submit him. You couldn't have had a more harder opponent to do that with, literally. So he passed up on that fight, and he chose what he thought was going to be an easier fight in his mind, and that what's it called, says it all, man. That mentality, that lack of confidence is the same thing that would make somebody want to go take PEDs, performance enhancers, or steroids. Those guys are usually like the worst type of person that you'd want to put your money on. He's not going to have the heart. As soon as he sees Tony Ferguson light him up like a Christmas tree on the feet and gets desperate and real, because Tony Ferguson's no slouch on the ground either. Eddie Bravo prodigy. He's a student of Eddie Bravo's. He's a great jiu-jitsu specialist. He's got his own set of skills with submissions on the ground. So he's not going to be scared. And when you're not scared of being taken down, you're able to use 110% of your tool sets on the feet. You're not worried about being taken down. You're going to open up. He's going to probably finish Oliveira very early, because he'll get desperate after a while. He does not like getting hit. And that's the same reason why he doesn't want to pick fights that are going to be difficult for his. It's a style matchup nightmare for him to fight against Dariush. He literally canceled the fight, gave no explanation for it, and picked a different opponent. Come on, man. This is a fight world. You can't be that type of a fighter. Should have no. Can I tell you guys a story really quick? When I was training at my gym, I was 16 years old. I had a 2004 Mach 1 Mustang with the Ram Air shaker hood. It has a hole in the hood. It was a brand new, had 0 miles when I bought it off the showroom floor, mint condition. I was driving to my gym. My boxing gym was on Costner and Ogden. It's the southwest side of Chicago, the ghettoist, most gangster gang infested neighborhood in the entire city. Chicago is known to be the murder capital of the world. This is the worst neighborhood in the entire country, literally. So I was at the gym, okay? The gym has 100 stairs. It's above. It's in a factory above, like a factory on the warehouse. It's on the second floor. So you go up the stairs. It's a circle, and you go inside the big 2 gym doors. But then there's windows. Okay. I heard my alarm go off. I ran to the window. 5 or 6 guys. It was a mixture between like a couple white guys, a Hispanic guy, I think, some black guys. These guys were young and they looked like they were up to no good. They were looking inside my car window. This is a $50,000 car at the time. And it was in a neighborhood where you couldn't even probably find a $1,000 car. So they were fascinated. I don't know what it was. I didn't call the cops. I was so excited about finally I get a chance to use my skill set. I've been training 7 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days of the year to fight and learn how to fight. And now I finally got a reason to fight. There were 6 of these guys. I was 16 years old. They were twice my size. I was so happy about having an opportunity to start using some of the stuff that I learned. I ran outside. I didn't call my trainer. I didn't call my friends from the gym. I ran outside to go fight with these guys who were trying to break into my car. By the time I got out there, the alarm scared them away. Obviously, nothing happened. But that's the mentality a fighter has when he's a fighter. You're a young fighter. You're not scared of anybody. And this guy's picking and choosing his battles. He doesn't want to. And even in his fights, when Kevin Lee was lighting him up, he tried to go for the takedown. He did use battle. Just a lot of his fights have shown me that it makes sense to me that he's not going to respond well against a guy like Tony Ferguson, who leaves people looking like a mess, a train wreck. After, like, this guy who uses elbows, after a few of those dangerous strikes, this guy's not going to be strategic. He's not going to be as dangerous. He's going to get sloppy. Tony will put him away more likely than not, or just accumulation and beat him by decision. Either way, Tony Ferguson's going to win this fight. All right, next fight. Sorry if I took too long on that one. I gave you guys an underdog. I don't know if he's still an underdog or not, but she's Virna Jandiroba. I like her a lot. She's just an all-around great fighter. She's got a mixture. I think she's got finishes even. Let me see. She's fighting against Mackenzie Dern. Yeah, she's got, like, look at her ratio. She's got 5 takedown. Her average is 5 takedowns per 15 minutes. She's fought against good fighters: Felice Herrig, Carla Esperanza, Mallory Martin. So she's done very well in her career. She's coming on a 2-fight win streak. She's got the momentum. She submitted her last opponents. That I even said she's a dangerous person on the ground. But she's smart. She's got good IQ. She won't play the jiu-jitsu game like Ronda Marcos did. She's the way better striker on the feet. It's not even a slight resemblance in the level similarity of where she is and where Mackenzie Dern are on the feet. On the feet, she will tear Mackenzie Dern apart. And the same way she's capable of averaging 5 takedowns per 15 minutes is the same way she'll be able to. Let's see what her takedown defense is. Her takedown defense accuracy is 60%, but more impressively, from what I remember and what I noticed about her, not just that she's hard to take down, but she's super strong and long, and she's got a lot of heart. She will not accept the bottom position or stay down. And against an opponent as dangerous as Mackenzie Dern is on the ground especially, she will definitely try even harder and make sure that her takedown defense is at its best and will not accept those. She will try to keep her opponent at a distance. She will not try to get into too many clinches or back against the cage. She'll know where the dangerous places are that she should be avoiding. And if she could just utilize her kicks and her jabs and some movement, footwork, she'll be able to win this fight unanimously. It should not even be a close fight. If she can keep it on the feet, it should be 10-8 rounds. Every round should be a 10-8 round. That's the type of a mismatch it is on the feet. And she's lined as underdog money. So if anytime there's going to be a close fight and somebody has more paths to victory than the other person, just like how I said Joseph Manez, when he was an underdog, I said that there was way more paths to victory. I said his wrestling, I've seen him use his wrestling to get into submissions and even from the feet, and that's what he did. He used his wrestling, he got into a mixture of tools. He used a little bit of footwork, movement, boxing. Even when he was losing, he was finding ways to avoid the places that he was getting. He found out where his opponent was finding his success, and he avoided it. And that's the type of a fighter she is. If she finds any areas where that's why her record is incredible. She's got 16 wins and one loss. So she's even got the better record. Even though Mackenzie's only got 1 loss as well, she doesn't have nearly as many wins or finishes. Or I mean, maybe they're similar in the sense of the finishes, let's see. But it doesn't matter. I just, from studying them and knowing how these two fight, I would feel more comfortable. Not a parlay piece. Remember, underdogs, pick'em fights, women's MMA, period. Not so good for parlays. So single bet if you want to bet it. If you don't need to bet it if you don't want to, but if you do, that's the best way to bet that one. All right, guys. Remember, I'm being generous because it's Christmas time coming around, so I'm giving you guys a little bit more stuff than I'm used to giving you guys. Unless you're a patron, usually starting in January, I'm going back to just doing the segments with partial breakdowns, mostly just my picks. I'm not going to dissect them and focus so much time on them. I'll just tell you who's going to win and pretty much it. I'll just give you some picks, maybe some small details, but business as usual. Until I can do this full time by getting sponsored or more subscribers and that type of stuff, you know. Until then, I gotta use this information for the guys who are paying for it in the Patreon. All right, another pick of mine, Jingliang. Your guess is as good as mine. I'm terrible with names. He's going against a Dwight Grant who got knocked out in the first round. I think they're both coming off losses, except Jingliang's is a more respectable loss against somebody who he went to decisions with. That's a future contender. I think Neil Magny is a guy who's going to be top 3, maybe even a future champion. They're calling him the boogeyman now. Ariel Helwani called him the boogeyman because he keeps calling out Chimaev. He's the guy raising his hand when nobody else wants to raise their hand, and they're acting like he's not even in the room. They don't want to even call his name or pretend like they even know his name. They're trying to avoid it because if there's anybody who's a worse style matchup for Chimaev who can derail the hype train, the money marketing machine knows better. And here's the thing I wanted to tell you guys, okay? Every time you're going to look into a fight before you bet on the fight, ask yourself this. What is the UFC money marketing machine up to? Why did they choose this style match? Why did they choose this matchup? And who are they mostly trying to be behind here? Who are they more in favor of? So, in this case, this is one of those fights that neither one of these guys are going to be future contenders. Neither one of these guys are going to be future champions. This is one of those fights that because there are so many fights like Ciryl Gane versus JDS where they're trying to build a Ciryl Gane who's undefeated, a future champion one day. He's going to probably be in the Hall of Fame even when his career is over. Mark my words. Before Peter Yan was even in the UFC, I was telling people, I'll show you witnesses to this, that this guy's going to be a future champ one day. I seen him coming from a mile away, and he's a champ now. Before he even entered the UFC doors, I knew that guy was special. I knew he was going to be somebody big. And same thing about Ciryl Gane. And look who they gave him. A beautiful hand-me fight. A guy who's got an awesome, huge name, huge following. End of his career, though. And not as big of a threat as a million other people who they could have put in there instead. But they like Ciryl Gane. They want to promote him. They want some good names on his resume, some value and some followers to start going behind him. They want him to steal JDS's followers and get the name recognition that he deserves. So the machine is trying to do what they do best and promote him and make him look great, even better than he is, but he is great. So it's not necessary. I think even if they put him in there with a killer, that he still would look impressive. So this is overkill. If you ask me, they don't need to sacrifice a lamb for him to slaughter, but that's what they're doing here. So it's a great parlay piece, Ciryl Gane, but that's not even what we were trying to focus on here. I'm just saying you guys gotta ask yourself, why did they make this fight? Well, let me tell you why they made this fight. Dwight Grant and James is just one of those fights to make up for the boring fights, the mismatches. They want to give you guys a banger, a slobber knot. But Jingliang Li has the advantage in a lot of different areas. He's got a lot of heart. He even took down Neil Magny, the bigger, better wrestler. And Neil Magny got taken down twice. This guy's got all heart. He doesn't mind taking hits to give hits. He's super strong. I've seen him when it was so dry. After wrestling, he's fought some great competition in his old organization before UFC, and he's been in the UFC long enough now. He's developed. I expect to see him at his best. He's young. He's in his prime. He's still developing, maturing, and getting better and better. But I've seen him even in the beginning of his career, like on the ground with excellent submission artists and grapplers, bigger guys. Put him in some guillotines, like when they were both so dry, like in the beginning of the first round, first few minutes of the first round or seconds, I don't remember when it was, but it was early on in the first round. The guy was put in like a submission that nobody would have been able to get out of it, especially before you're sweaty and able to slip out. The guy just muscled he's got so much power, even in his neck and his muscles, he pulled himself out of there. So a lot of guys would have. Thiago Santos. It was like 5 seconds. Conor McGregor, they tapped out before the submission was even put on properly. Chael Sonnen did that one time in this fight. A lot of people do that. This guy's got heart, he's got strength, he's got cojones. He doesn't mind taking hits to give hits because he knows he's going to be the harder hitter. He's an awesome, fun, exciting fighter. They matched him up with a guy who's also fun and cool to watch as well, not as much. He almost put away Daniel Rodriguez, if you guys remember, in that fight in the first round before he got finished. He almost finished Daniel Rodriguez, so he's got power in his hands as well. It'll be a very fun fight to watch. Not the most safest to parlay, but I still, like, again, when you know who's going to win, you know who's going to win. I don't care. I wouldn't mind. I do have a system that allows me to I win so much money off of single bets, 2-leg parlays, 3-leg parlays, and my sure props that I can afford to make, even if they don't hit these bigger 7, 8, 9-leg parlays, which if you look at my Twitter, my description link, I've sent some images I posted before the fights even started, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13-leg parlays that cashed in. I even have a 12-leg parlay that has the entire full card. Every fight in the card. There was 12 fights on that night, all 12 in one parlay, 87-1 odds, cashed in for us 3 times in the same night. I bet 3 different wagers. That's how confident I was. I bet it 3 times, the same exact combination, just different amounts. And those cash in. So, and I even had like 3 underdogs. 3 of those people were underdogs in that card. Out of 12, 9 of them were favorites, 3 of them were underdogs. And it cashed in for us. Anyways, and that's why I will always be the parlay king. So yeah, I edged this one to Jingliang Li. He should win this fight. And now we're going to move on to the next one. I'll give you guys one more, man. We've been on this for way too long. I got stuff to do. You guys got stuff to do. But I'll continue this again. We'll finish the rest of them tomorrow. Similar. Oh, might as well give you this one then. Hold on. Billy Quarantillo. He just bought a house. He's an underdog or pick him right now. So it's a very close line. I think he should be the bigger favorite due to recency bias. They're giving Gavin Tucker more credit, as you can see. What he did to Justin James, who I told you guys was my fade last week. If you remember my fade of the week, it was Justin James, the Guitar Hero. And I said that you could even bet on the under rounds. It should be in the first round. So that cashed in, both of them. The under rounds, I said, and Gabriel Benitez to win that fight. And I told you guys that the pressure from his father being ringside and he was terminally ill was actually going to be something that worked against him, because having pressure to fight in your fight is not good. And it could work against you when you're not fighting strategy. You're trying to perform and go outside your capabilities to do things that you're incapable. Like perfect examples, like a Maurice Green. The guy moves around and tries to fight like he's an Ciryl Adesanya, but he doesn't have the capabilities of the footwork or the movement to support it, so he always ends up getting himself in trouble. That's kind of what this guy does. He puts himself, he closes the disc, like what exact perfect example is what Alonzo Menfield did against OSP. Tries to close the distance. He initiated. It's almost like what Ronda Marcos did before he got knocked out. It's like what Ronda Marcos did with Mackenzie Dern after she fell to the ground because she got beat up on the feet. She followed her to the ground, went into her guard, and got submitted. So these people put themselves in bad positions because they think they're better than they are. And that's why he was my fade of the week, and he lost in an embarrassing fashion, as I predicted. But Gavin Tugger put him away, so now he's lined up as almost a pick'em. When I looked at it, it was minus 110, minus 110. So I don't know if it's changed much. But anyways, Billy Quarantillo should be a big favorite here. He's way more skilled, better all-around skill set, more younger, hungrier, better fighter, just all around better. And now he's got motivation. I was watching some interviews. He just bought a house. And when you buy a house, you got responsibilities and a lot of debt. It motivates you to want to get bonuses. So this guy's going to look for the finish. And like I told you guys, against Spike Carlisle, which is a fight that he actually did win anyways, but he almost finished. If it wasn't for the strength discrepancy between him and Spike Carlisle, the ginger guy, he would have finished Spike a few times. He's got excellent transitions and positioning and very smooth and slick on the ground. Very good striker. Got heart, all around, just a perfect fighter, man. Great fighter. So I definitely like Billy Quarantillo here, especially at these numbers. Beautiful, beautiful odds. I don't know, like again, recency bias, I guess, because he beat somebody who's a fade in an impressive fashion. I don't know. All right, so I also got Cub Swanson versus Daniel Pineda. Daniel Pineda beat on short notice, 4 or 5 day notice. He embarrassed Herbert Burns, like in his own world, in his own game. First, he dominated him on the feet. He made some he looked like a, who's that guy here? Chris Gutierrez. The way Chris Gutierrez leg kicks are, Daniel Pineda reminded me of that. Maybe even more better. His leg kicks were vicious. He took him on 5 day notice or 4 day notice. He took him down on the ground with leg kicks, and then he submitted him. He submitted Herbert Burns. The guy, him and his brother are excellent, especially he's the better one out of the two brothers in submissions. He wins most of his fights by submissions. He's an excellent, like Gracie, I think he fights at the Gracie, he's a Gracie product, but Hoist Gracie's family, BJJ. And so he's just an all-around excellent submission guy, and he was able to submit him. And he submitted him. I think it was, that's a big, impressive statement to make, man. When you can submit a guy like Herbert Burns after dominating him on the feet and on short notice, well, he's fighting a guy who's a little bit beyond his years. He's not going to be in his prime anymore. He should be close to the end of his career now. So, and now he's got a full camp. I expect it to be a mismatch, and he should get probably an early finish, if not a late finish. But even if he couldn't finish it, he'll win by unanimous decision. Again, if you're in the Patreon, you don't just get who to win, who's going to win, and the breakdowns, the full breakdowns, but I'm going to show you guys how I myself personally make these bets. If they're going to be to maximize the profit, because I told you a million times, I'll tell you again, you can have all the right picks, but if you don't know how to bet it, you don't know where to put the bets, you'll lose money sometimes, or you won't win nearly as much as you could have and should have. So specific fights are meant to be in parlays. Some are meant not to be in parlays. Some are meant to just put a prop bet in it instead of a single money or a straight money line bet on a fighter. I would recommend on some fights to put prop bets, like the Shevchenko fight. I found you guys from a minus 1,400 favorite. I found you guys a plus 200 prop bet on that fight. So we found Shevchenko by decision, and that was paying plus 175. So, and there was a reason behind it. I told you guys Maya had not been finished in 8 years. 8 years, nobody was able to submit or knock her out. And the prop bet for Shevchenko by decision was paying plus 175 as opposed to minus 1,400. So that was a parlay piece right there. I was a 1,000,000% sure that was what was going to happen. All right, and I gave you other reasons behind it, not just because she wasn't finished. For other reasons, I explained it in that video if you want to look back at it. All right, guys. So you got another pick of mine. I'll finish the rest of the picks for the patrons probably, or maybe if I have time, I'll bring you guys another YouTube video. But get ahead of the line movement. Oh, the next thing I'm going to do for my patrons, and I may consider doing it, I'm going to tell you which fights to wait on. I don't have the time to do it today. I'm very sorry, guys. So I may only end up doing it for the patrons. I'm going to give you guys the fights, not just who to win, who's going to win, and when they're going to win, so you can get the prop bets, but I'm going to tell you if it's a parlay piece or a single bet piece. And then I'm going to tell you if you should wait or hurry up and place the bets, because I'll tell you which way the lines are supposed to be moving. So now you're going to get the pick, the method of how they're going to win, when they should win, in which rounds, and if it's a parlay piece, single bet piece, and if you should wait because the line's moving in the favor of our direction or the opposite direction. These are the perks and benefits. I'm doing a special because it's Christmas this week only. If you join, you get gold member. If you join as a gold member, I'll give you ultimate member benefits, which means that the Bellator card, for example, if you look at my comments, people said that they went and I had a perfect week last time Bellator fight was on. I picked everything perfect, just like I did almost yesterday, with the exception of the one wrong fight. I had an almost perfect week. I've had many weeks that I have had perfect weeks. Bellator is one of my specialties. Just like Dana White Contender Series, I've had many perfect weeks. The same thing here. So fights that other channels were telling you pass on because they have no wins in the organization, no losses, they're new. I did study and research on them from like where they used to fight as an amateur, and I was able to tell you that not only should you bet on it, but that guy was a parlay piece and to bet him in the future. Oh, by the way, remember I told you guys that there was a thing that I do for my patrons, and I did it for you guys as well, where I give you some fighters from this event to put them along with other fighters in other events. So like an 8-leg parlay is an actual 2-leg parlay, because you're only taking your 2 most confident picks from different cards and combining them into a big parlay. So it looks like a crazy, and it'll pay you like a crazy, like 15 to 30 to 80 to 1 odds, because it looks like a crazy dangerous parlay, but it's really a safe parlay because you're not picking 8 fights in the same card, which is difficult for most people to do unless you're the parlay king. But anyways, the guys who I told you to include, the Jamal Hill, the Ilya Topuria, everybody who I picked is still alive. So I have a guy right now on my Patreon, if you want to see, and many guys, if they did what he did, saying thanks, because now he's only got 2 fights left, Ciryl, Gane, and Figueiredo, and his site has even given him the option to cash out early. 5 of his 7 fights have already been completed, and they all won. And because he combined from the future card, now it's paying 14 to 1 odds. So if you bet $100, he's going to win $1,400. And it's still a live pick because all of our picks made it. All the ones that I told you are parlay picks, not single bet picks. Those guys are underdogs or women's MMA. And now we've also added heavyweight fights to that list. So the other fights besides those categories, I picked 100% correct. So his parlays, even though he's up a lot now, that parlay is still intact for the next week card with him. He only needs 2 people to win, and they're one of my 2 most confident picks. So that's the types of benefits you get. Like I said, 1 bet will pay off your 6 months worth of your membership fees, man. So it makes no sense for you guys not to win. Then I can start doing this full time for you guys. All right, thank you for your time. Thank you for your support, your likes, your comments. Please don't forget to like, the subscribe, the notifications, and leave a comment. It'll help me get out there as well so people can view my channel. Appreciate all the support, guys. Thank you, guys. I hope you make a lot of money on your next card, and we'll see you guys in the next day or 2. I'll be making another video soon. Thank you, guys.